This is Ed Czerwien with the USDA in Amarillo, Texas, with the weekly box beef recap for week ending May 11th. The comprehensive choice cutout, which is the weekly average of all types of sales, including the spot trade, formula trade, those outfront sales and exports, etc., was at 200.75, which was $4.45 higher than last week. The total reported box beef volume was 6,594 loads, which was 652 loads less than the previous week. After 3 weeks in a row of over 7,200 loads per week, which was very similar to last year, we have finally returned to those lower sales once again. The formula trade was 3,208 loads for the week, which was 281 loads less than last week, but still is around 49% of the total sales. The daily spot choice box beef cutout, which are the cutout numbers that we watch each and every day, set another record high again midweek and ended the week at 204.98 on Friday, which was $3.30 higher. However, once again, it was on very light trade, with only 780 loads for the week as reported in this daily cutout, and represents only a little over 11% of the total trade. The primal cut trade portion of that spot trade was better again, with the steak meat setting the pace. The outside primal cuts, which are rounds and chucks, they were steady to $2 higher. But the middle meats, the ribs and loins, were explosive once again, trading $2 to $10 higher, carrying the cutout to new record highs and widening that choice select spread. The exports represented about 774 loads, which was 132 loads less than the previous week. The outfront sales were at 1,033 loads, which were 455 loads lower than last week, and a return to the previous low numbers. In fact, when you look at the graphs, you could see that we have only come close to the previous year's outfront sales a couple of times since the first of the year. However, this lack of outfront sales did help push more buyers into the spot trade, which supported the recent jump in that spot trade. Also, when you look at the long-term contracts, which make up part of the outfront sales that extend beyond 90 days, we see that the meat buyers have been very, very reluctant to make these longer-term commitments. Long-term contracts quite often are used by large restaurant chains to lock in prices for their menus, but they have been very slow lately. The most recent 10-week rolling box beef sales average was 6,809 loads per week, which compares to 7,221 loads per week last year at this same time, and it was 412 loads less than last year's average for each week. The latest National Weekly Steer Carcass weights, which are a good measure of the fat cattle weights, have been following their normal seasonal trend, dropping to 840 pounds in the latest NAS data. However, that was compared to 828 pounds last year and 815 pounds in the 4-year average. We are still running about 12 pounds heavier than last year, which does not sound like much. However, adding 12 pounds on every steer and heifer carcass would be roughly equivalent to adding about 7,000 head of 800-pound carcass to the beef supply each and every week. So this adds up a lot more than you think, and it has been the case for most of last year as well as this year. The most recent 10-week average for NAS steer and heifer harvest numbers totaled around 465,000 head per week this year, compared to around 481,000 head of steers and heifers per week last year. This means in the last 10 weeks, we have cut our steer and heifer harvest numbers approximately 16,000 head each week compared to last year. However, we have increased our carcass weights enough to make up for almost half of that decline. In closing, We have been behind the previous year's weekly boxed beef sales for most of the last 10 months, except for those 3 recent weeks that we had over 7,200 loads per week in sales. Retailers have pushed the boxed beef cutout up on the backs of the ribs and loins that they hope to sell for the Memorial Weekend. This first big grilling holiday will no doubt set the pace for this summer's beef sales. So we certainly hope that the retailers can move all of the product that they have purchased in the next week. Thank you. This has been Ed Czerwien with the USDA in Amarillo, Texas.